House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
We are back, everybody. Half a day. I'm Jason Salas alongside my two friends, Gina Campos and Liz Duenas from RE/MAX Diamond Realty. And we are bringing you House to Home, where we cover all things relative to Guam real estate. More pertinently, a lot of things that you might be giving some worry about. And certainly this week we are talking about one of those things. So Gina, as I understand it, you brought up this topic, and apparently utility costs at condos are not the same as other types of residential places, are they?
They've never been the same, Jason. You're living in a condominium, and this is particularly the Guam Power Authority rates. They've actually never been the same. And Liz, last week, Liz and John attended the public hearings. So Liz can give you heads up on how that meeting went. But just so the consumers know, if you're living in a condominium, you're paying commercial rates, which is 100 right now with this new proposal. It'll be 100% more than what residential rates are at, right, Liz?
Yeah, the rates are really much higher. Actually, when we went to the public hearing, I guess they went to some consultants, because, by the way, we've been fighting this for over 20 years now. There's a big disparity between the power bills to condos versus regular single family units. So we many years ago, close to 20 years ago, Chris Felix, myself, John, we met with the PUC about the disparity in the rates. So at the public hearing, Guam Power Authority, well, prior to that, we even went to the legislature to say, hey, we need to fix the inequity of the two rates. But then we were told that it was inappropriate to take that route to try to clear this, that it would have to go back to PUC and Guam Power Authority. And they hired a consultant to look at the rates and review, what the costs were for condos and for the residents. And so someone at Guam Power did a presentation. So what we saw was they may have reduced some of the rates to some degree, but then they raised the rates for the demand. So there's different rates associated with your bill. So the demand, there's I guess a fee for the demand. There's a different fee for that. But in essence, when we took the new rates that they had and then we plugged it in and compared it to the current condo rates, instead, it increased the power bill instead of reduced it. So we complained vehemently for them to review what they've got, because it just didn't seem fair. The presentation gave the impression that there's a reduction, but if you really look at the numbers, it wasn't a true reduction in the rates. So I guess our argument is, if you had 22 units in a condo and 1 meter that's pulling power and well maintained versus 22 single family homes spread out over a number of acres, they're pulling power. The work involved in 22 single family units are greater than it would for 22 units in one structure pulling power out of one unit and then feeding it into the submeter. So, I mean, we presented our argument and also the sample billings that we did. So I think what they're going to do is go back and look at it. But for those who are living in condos, they should be aware that your power bills, on Guam, power bills are high to begin with, but then the disparity between, we're all residents, right? We're all living in a unit, but to know that there's one group is being charged unfairly and may, to some degree, be subsidizing another group is really unfair. So
by no fault of their own, though, because this is something that most consumers aren't even well aware of, if they even are aware of it.
This is the first I've heard of this.
Well, the reason this is important to us, Jace, is because, we continuously talk about the marketplace. We don't have enough affordable units here in Guam.
Right.
There aren't enough of them. And so a lot of younger families, and I'm seeing some older families too, selling their home and saying, we're going to downsize and move into a condo. And so they're looking at condominiums, they're looking at moving into condos, buying something reasonably priced and moving in there. Now they've got their common area and they're going to be paying power bills. But what they're not aware of is your power bill is going to be much more than when you were in the home. And the reason isn't because of anything different about how you're living. It's just GPA has decided that you should pay commercial rates as if you were a business. And the justification they gave for it is because they felt that if you're living in a condo, that there is more demand. And one of the other write-ups that I read was that the reason that GPA can't afford to reduce the rates is it because it will put an unfair burden on GPA. They're not going to be able to collect enough revenues to be able to run, that specific agency. Well, hey guys, all the businesses out here since March that have been closed down, that have been made to operate at 25% occupancy, that are
And
now
maybe not even 25%.
Yeah, and I mean, as a private business, we absolutely don't have a choice. So when we're making less money, we adjust. And to say, well, we can't give residential rates to people living in residential units because we can't afford to take the cut. How will we balance our books? We'll show you how if you need to figure it out.
Okay.
It's not fair, Jason.
My next question, hopefully this would be a logical one, would be, so if I'm a property owner and I operate like a commercial, like say I've got one of those, let's say it's an 8-unit building and everything like that. I maintain it. I have a company like yours property manage it, but I'm the owner and I'm essentially the landlord, right? And technically it's considered apartments right now. Right. At any point, can somebody just come in, whether it be the government or whether it's a ratings private or company and can they automatically say, you know what, all of a sudden you're considered a condominium instead of an apartment building?
Well, the rates that we're referencing is I would say if you're in an apartment building or a commercial building, those are in the same category. The rates are higher than if you're in a single family dwelling. So it's the same. It's applicable to both. So if you're in a single
both apartments
family,
and condos.
Right. So if you're paying, let's say, $59 versus $15, there's such a big disparity. $59, $15 for whatever their formula.
That's about four times the amount.
And if you're paying that, wouldn't you gripe? And you're right. Not too many people know about it, that their rates are higher. But again, we're not fighting. I mean, I live in a condo. I'm not just fighting for me. I'm fighting for, someone was telling me, well, we understand because you live in a condo. Well, forget about me. How about the rest of Guam? The people who are living in apartment buildings and living in condo and they have a fixed income. And hey, look at it. If you talk to people, we're all looking at conserving power. So some people turn their air cons off. Some of them adjust their thermostat just so it doesn't pull that much power. So I would say here on Guam, people are so conscious to the degree they even shut off their water heaters. I was
about to say my very first apartment, when I left the house in the morning, I would shut off the water heater, turn it back on when I got home.
Turn on the heater 15 to 20 minutes before showers and dishes and then shut it down. It would shave your power bills. So, we're all conscious about that. So anyway, we're fighting for Guam, not just ourselves.
Jason, it doesn't make sense, the justification that PUC and GPA are giving out to the consumers. It doesn't make sense. And as I said, one of the reasons they don't want to give the same rate for these units is the question is, well, if we cut the rates, where are we gonna make that money? Well, perhaps you don't. Perhaps you need to,
Shave
take a look
off.
at take a look at the agency and see where you could cut the waste, because, and we know how that feels. We are doing it out here in the private sector, and it is possible, and you want to do it so that you can, our market right now is off balance. Our residential cost of living for rents and for, to buy a home is extremely high. And I think the government has a responsibility to ensure that all residential consumers are getting the same rate.
We'll tell you what, we're just about out of time, but I want to give we have like 1 minute, so maybe you both are advocating for the consumer, as you always do, and your words carry a lot of weight, but you're only two people. What can other people that feel very strongly about this issue, so there's more of a larger collective voice, what can they do to get involved?
I think what they could do is go into the PUC website just to see, but again, if you're looking at charts and graphs, how is that going to help you? But I think you should look at that and attend the hearings that they have. I know that from these 3 hearings, they're submitting their reports in for PUC to review. So, contact PUC and say, hey, we oppose any rate. We want equity. We want the rates to be equal to condo owners, apartment owners, and residential. But your voice has to be heard. And when hearings do come up, they've got to show up, because then your voice can be heard.
All right, Gina, final word. You got 10 seconds.
Just, we're advocating for the consumers and for our, the people right now. We know it's really, times have been tough. Some businesses are doing okay, but, we've got to tighten our belts, and we're hoping that everybody can share in this. We all need to do the same thing so we can take care of the residents here in Guam.
All right, very well said. Ladies, thank you as always. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Thank you, Jason.